Hello and welcome to the Wolverton Workshop. In this video we will take a look at the third building for my N-Gauge layout, Wolverton North.
Please stand back from the platform edge.
Having already completed the telecoms building from Wolverton Station and the boiler workshop from Bridgnorth, I thought I would tackle a building from Loughborough next. This means I will have a building from each of the three stations on the layout. After taking a look around Loughborough Station, I decided to start with the small building at the end of the platform. I don't really know much about the building itself, but with its location I'm going to assume it was some sort of yard office. I plan to model the interior as such rather than how it may be in preservation, simply because I have no idea what's actually inside now. Unlike the first two buildings I made, which have a separate inner shell and then a set of detailed skins fitted, this structure is small enough to print as a single piece on my resin printer without any warping. I started the base unit similar to my previous buildings, which includes the grassy area behind the building, as well as the picnic area leading up to the station platforms. Around the perimeter runs a wooden fence that includes a number of small gates. On top of this base unit sits the building itself, with a removable roof and a separately fitted chimney. There are also a number of smaller details that sit just outside the front of the building, including this lamppost. And here are the initial parts I printed out. This includes the first section of the main base. The building walls are designed to drop into a recess on this base, and once the chimney was glued on, the roof is a simple push fit onto these walls. I managed to include most of the finer detail into the main building print, simply because these parts would be so small and delicate if they were printed separately. I included the downpipes and even these fire buckets on the front. Inside I modelled a small fireplace along with a chimney breast. The window frames were also integrated as part of the main print. The base plate has holes all around the outside to allow the fence to be fitted. The fence is fairly robust and quite flexible, so it allows me to add corners by just bending the fence at the correct points. The base section received a few coats of filler primer to remove the print lines, and then it was given a general covering of brown paint. I then printed out a section of red and black tiling onto photo paper and glued this down to the area that will form the floor of the building. The building itself was then painted. The exterior brickwork and the chimney were painted to represent the reddish bricks, and the stripes of darker bricks were then added. The roof tiles were then painted grey, and the roof edges, along with the window frames and doors, were painted in green. The interior walls were then painted cream. I then masked off and painted the lower section in this orangey colour before adding a brown stripe. The interior colour scheme is entirely from my imagination because I couldn't find any reference photos from inside the building. I then fitted and painted the fence. It was all given a base layer of brown before being dry brushed with some lighter shades to break up the uniformity. The main gate that allows visitors to cross the tracks was then painted in white and weathered. With the fence in place, it was then time to lay the paving. There are two types of slabs used. Around the building itself are the larger grey rectangular slabs, and then leading down towards the platform there are square buff slabs. These were all printed in sections and painted before gluing them down to the base. The joints between each sections were a little more visible than I had hoped, but once the grass is in place they shouldn't draw the eye. Next I added the scatter to the grassed areas. I used a variety of scatters to create a more natural look. Based on my visit last autumn, only the grass along the path and around the picnic benches appeared to be kept short. The rest towards the fence line was left to grow much longer. To reflect this, I applied static grass along the fence line and also behind the building where it appears to be left to grow quite long. Behind the building there is also a relay box, so I added this as well. To finish the area I added a couple of bins and picnic benches as well as the signage in front of the building. To be honest, I think I may have overdone it with the static grass and made the area look a little too wild. At a later date I may revisit this and remove or trim back some of the static grass. I then went about adding the various lighting features in the area. There is a single 3mm LED in the building to provide the lighting, and this is mounted to a simple roof truss that I added. The log burner I designed into the building includes a small hole underneath it. This allows me to fit a tiny orange LED inside and use a feature similar to what you get in a firebox flicker. In front of the building there is an old lamppost, and I hunted around but couldn't find anything that looked much like this available off the shelf in N-Gauge. So I thought I might as well see if I can make it myself. Printing tubes is extremely difficult because the resin is quite thick and it tends to close up the hole if it's too small. Eventually though, I was able to print the lamppost in 3 pieces that are completely hollow down the middle to allow me to pass the wires through. I then very carefully fitted a surface mount LED to the top which faces downwards as per the real thing. I then fed the wires through the other two pieces, glued it all together and gave it a coat of paint. Once it was complete, I added it to the model. Finishing the interior of the building was my next job. I first added some photos, a map and some blackboards to the walls. It was at this point the building was then glued down. I then designed and printed some desks, cabinets and chairs to furnish the building. Finally, some boxes and other items were added around the front of the building, and with that the building was complete. The building itself may only be small, but along with the picnic area it does represent a significant section of Loughborough Station. I'm really happy with how the building came out, and once again through 3D printing I was really surprised at some of the details I was able to include. For the next project I'll be looking back at Wolverton North Station and specifically the new cafe building. And that's it for this video, so until next time, thanks for watching.
Please hold on to pushchairs, wheelchairs and your belongings.